Here's your chapter 1 and 2 recap of The Outsiders, so that as we're moving forward between the novel, we're kind of staying up to date on what the major talking points and the topics that were discussed in those chapters are. So the first thing that happens in chapter 1 and 2 is the overall concept of characterization. So these chapters demonstrate the different social classes of the characters, and our characters are the Socs and the Greasers. Those would be the two social classes. The Greasers are the poor, and they live in a world where they feel disregarded. Danger lurks around every turn, and they feel they can only trust each other. So they're constantly feeling like everyone is out to get them, that whatever they do, they always get yelled at for it. The Socs are rich, and they're perceived by the Greasers as spoiled kids who have no problems in their lives. The newspapers will criticize the Socs one minute and the next minute celebrate them. So as a result, the Greasers are always feeling like the Socs can do no wrong. Even if they do something wrong, that it's not that big of a deal. Whereas if the Greasers do something wrong, it's constantly scrutinized. To continue on, although there is a strict divide between the Greasers and the Socs, it is clear that Hinton, who is the author, does not believe the group defines each individual. So, for example, the novel is written as such that Ponyboy is a Greaser, but he's not necessarily fitting that role of a tough gang member because he enjoys nature and reading, staying out of trouble. And she also uses Cherry Valance as an example because she does not apply to that whole spoiled rich kid character profile. She's very sympathetic and warm. So while the book does portray two very different social classes, the author does put in members like Johnny and Ponyboy and Cherry to show that even though they're part of this group, they're not bound by those groups and expectations, that the stereotypes are not true for them. Derry is presented as the group's leader in chapters 1 and 2. He has been forced to sacrifice his education to take on the role of providing for his family after his parents died. So although the Greasers are portrayed as tough and they're a street gang, they have a strong moral compass, and their loyalty to each other is already made clear. So what we mean by moral compass is that they have rules and laws that they stick by and they follow, and they think that that's going to define who they are. So when Ponyboy was explaining in chapter 1 that, you stick together and you don't get caught, those are rules that they live by in every situation. Important ideas and similarities between the members of different social classes is also a concept that is talked about in chapter 1 and 2. So although there is a constant conflict between the Socs and the Greasers, Hinton, who's the author, begins to show that the two groups are not as different as they appear. We see that both groups are capable of committing crimes, from the Socs attempting to jump Ponyboy to Dally slashing Tim's tires. However, we also see that both groups can be sympathetic, warm, caring, and well-rounded, because Ponyboy shows an interest in reading and nature, while Cherry also shows positive interactions with Ponyboy, which puts a more positive face on the Socs. So again, with that whole, although there are stereotypes for each groups, there are characters in there that are going to challenge and change those stereotypes to show that people should not be judged by how they look or who they hang out with. And finally, the theme of gender kind of starts to appear in our novel in chapters 1 and 2, because Hinton suggests that male-female friendships between Socs and Greasers are more likely to remain peaceful. So, Ponyboy and Cherry, they don't have any fights. They have a more peaceful interaction with each other, whereas the male-to-male encounters in these chapters are always resulting in violence. So that the male and female interactions can remain positive. This demonstrates the strong masculine bond felt between the members of each group, but also the strong masculine rivalry between the Greasers and the Socs. So that's your chapter 1 and 2 catch up. So let's move on to chapter 3.